Welcome back to episode number 44. How is everyone doing?
Yeah,
pumped. Happy Friday, guys.
Recovering from a cold, so doing good.
Winter.
Now we're in spring because it's what like mid-Feb now. Valentine's Day, has that come or gone? I'm not sure.
It's
coming, man.
I'm in. So, Shiva, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
I don't even know what Valentine's Day is.
It's on a Friday.
I don't know what that is.
It's Valentine's Day every day for this guy, bro. Especially over there in Stockholm, bro.
No, we're gonna have to edit that out. We're gonna have to edit that out. Right, anyway, guys, so what's the agenda today?
Guys, hello world. Today's agenda, we want to talk a little bit about public speaking. And I think so a few of us have had the opportunity to speak to sort of a large number of people. And I think it'll be good now that obviously I think Schwarz recently posted one of his talks. We did an amazing job, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of share our experiences, what we were like when we first started, and now that we've had a chance to sort of have a number of presentations, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, what would be the tips that we share with people that perhaps they wouldn't necessarily pick up from other areas. So
stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. We never fly, but we're flying.
Shiva, you're just fresh off
one actually, and actually we've got a lot of experts in this group anyway, because Daniel's like the king of Toastmasters. I think everyone's also had a chance to do talks, and actually, I think once this is done, once this episode is released, P and I are actually doing a session together jointly in a school in Portsmouth where a friend of mine is teaching. And he asked me if I would like to come speak, and I thought it'd actually be a great opportunity to get P while he's enjoying his paternity leave and building his property empire, to get him involved as well. So, no, honestly, I had a really, really pleasant experience very recently, and it's something which I was telling P about. Again, people don't see the process behind. I was extremely sleep deprived. I had probably slept 2 or 3 hours before that morning. Probably practiced about 3 times on the plane there. So my preparation was not optimal at all. I just had a lot of stuff going on at that time. But yeah, I just had someone who was helping me put together the story flow. And this is one recommendation that I would give to anyone, is have someone who you can trust, who you know where their intention is. They're not trying to rip your thing down, but they really want you to get a better story. And that massively, massively helped. And she's been very, very helpful and supportive around it. So no, I can't complain. And it was just a great opportunity to get on a stage and do it. And it really made me feel, this was the first time where I actually felt comfortable going in front of a group. And yes, there were some nerves, but compared to previous times, every time I go up, it becomes less and less. So
nerves. They look like how many
people were listening? Or how many people were there?
So the audience was close to 400. The bit that was kind of crazy was the fact that someone else was supposed to speak at that event, and they had fallen ill, so they were looking for like a short-term replacement. So they told me on the Friday at 3, and the talk was on Monday in the daytime. So it's kind of crazy prep, but no, it was a really, really cool experience, and now I just can't wait to do more and more of it. I think off the back of that, through again what we discussed in the previous episode, sharing things on social media. I actually had a call today with an old friend who also works at another school, and he was asking if I'd be interested in coming in March to go speak at his school as well. And this is a skill that I want to improve at. So, like anything, you can't improve unless you don't practice. But how? Because all of you guys have done it. I've seen all of you guys talk and present. I know you're all slick mother. So how you found your experience?
Oliver's a bit stiff.
How many speaking gigs have you done?
You're like me though. We're stiff together, man. It's cool.
Okay. I think what we should do is we should upload our video. I think we should upload our video.
I'm not the one to say pause, bruv. So, like I said, Ollie, me and you stick together. Come on, Daniel.
I think we should upload.
Wait,
that
can
video.
I
Yeah.
one very quick
Go
question?
ahead.
In university, did you guys present in front of each other? Did you have any projects where you
No,
had to
no,
do
presented
that?
as a group.
We
We
presented
did a
as a
group
group.
presentation.
I would boss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
No,
were stiff.
well, my experience was at work. We have a work conference. So every 4 months we go away for a conference, and we have, like you said, 400, 500 people.
Yeah.
You got a VP of the company or the program there, and you have to present a story or your project for that particular trimester. Now, the key thing you mentioned is really around the story. How do you
Yeah.
share and put together a story, especially visually on slides, where less is more?
Mm.
So you have to figure out, how do you not complicate your message? Because a lot of times people are not even listening to what you're saying. They're waiting. You just got to be clear, concise, simple as possible,
Mhm.
and try not to choke. Because I've seen some people. I've seen people.
No, wait. It's not funny, guys. Come on. People, come on.
No, but it's true. People say, like, some people's biggest fear is
No,
public speaking.
yeah, the number one
Yeah.
fear is public speaking. People would rather
Public
die
speaking.
than speak
Yeah.
in front of an audience.
Than
Yeah.
speak in front of audience. So, like you said, you need a team, a group of people that are gonna tear down your pages, tear down your slides, make sure that your messaging is concise, straight to the point. You have to rehearse it. You have to try and find some way to include, me personally, some sort of humor. There needs to be some joke or some way to change the flow of the conversation. And
Have you ever tried to land a joke and it didn't work?
nah, my joke worked. But you need to know the room.
Oli, on that topic, I was having a conversation with Pamela, I think, like earlier, well, would be a few weeks ago, and I was saying the same thing to P. Actually, I think what helped was the fact that having a joke early on, and then P was saying that he doesn't think he'll be able to drop a joke, and I was like, mate, you're. But he's a funny guy. I would love to sit there and listen to him saying a joke, but I think P was saying that he doesn't.
There's different levels. There's different levels of funny. I don't see P in a public speech having a joke. He'll be too serious. But no.
Yeah, we had the conversation. No, I'm not like you in terms of
Because Pete wants to be professional and polished. He wants to come across.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Because
there's no breaking down the
I don't
barriers to
want them
get
to
to know him.
smell.
He's like, deliver it.
I
I'm
don't
out. I don't
want
feedback.
the
lost.
audience. I don't want, and this is actually probably another subject. I don't want the audience to smell that I'm from Edmonton Green or anywhere like that. You know what I'm trying to say? So I gotta be serious. Serious.
Shiwa, are you gonna record? Are you gonna record Portsmouth?
You should always
Yeah,
record
actually,
it,
I've
because
got
feedback.
so whenever I have these talks now, I get my brother to come along for the day. So I actually pay him, and he's my videographer. So yeah, he'll be recording.
Yeah,
so.
I really want to. I want to get a copy of P's.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll get a copy for
Oh,
you.
that's fine. No, that's fine. I was gonna actually say, I think, Ollie, to your point, I think there is a percentage breakdown where it says, I think it's like when you present 50%. I haven't got it. I've got it wrong, but a lot of actually is spent on what you wear. People don't actually remember what you say, but how you said it or your tone.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very
your
small
confidence.
percentage where people actually remember exactly what it is that you said, but it's more your tone and how you come across, and what you're actually wearing on the day.
Yeah, and your level of confidence on the stage. So how can you show a level of confidence? How do you own the stage? Not pay. So I watched multiple videos on like public speaking prior to do this, or like not pacing on the stage. So a lot of mistake people do is pacing up and down the stage. Yeah, bare hand gestures, like, and it's like you just get distracted because the person's not staying still. So you can walk to one side, but you should stop.
Walk with
Deliver your
purpose.
message. Yeah,
Walk with
deliver your
purpose.
message, and then pause, and then the pausing is a big thing. So how do you take your time, pause, slow it down? Because in your mind, you feel like you're going slow, but you're going much faster than you actually know. Eye contact is also a key one.
So a couple of, yeah. So no, I just quickly, on the point I mentioned, actually, is actually probably because of that, because actually a small percentage of the audience only focuses on exactly what you said. For those that are sort of preparing a presentation, it should actually make them feel more comfortable. Because you're not being as scrutinized as much as you think you are. on the tip point, there's actually one thing that came to mind now is it really helps to record yourself in 2 formats. One, with and without sound. Because with sound, then you can listen to exactly what you're saying. And then without sound, you just study your body language.
Yeah.
And that's something that we picked up from the communications woman in Novartis. And you really, go on.
Be careful with trying to say your script precisely. Because a lot of times people memorize their script.
And if
the
they forget
moment
a line,
they get a line, I've seen people just be like, and it was like, wait, no, 1 second. They'll try and remember it, and it just goes. So what you need to really understand is what is the message you're trying to convey and the journey. So have a script here, but understand where is that script taking you. Because if you just try to memorize it and just repeat it, the moment you forget one line, yeah.
I think it helps to have your trigger points.
Yeah, like the start of every sentence.
We'll save Daniel to last because he's the expert. But I know trigger points help because there are times where you can actually forget what you want to say. Or like I've realized sometimes when I've presented, there was a line that I didn't mention. I didn't say. But I kept on going. I was able to keep going because I had my trigger lines, my trigger points.
But P, you know the crazy thing about it, the line that you forgot to say,
yeah,
your audience didn't know that you forgot.
Yeah, no one's gonna know.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the problem.
No.
Everyone feels like they have to say no. Everyone knows. No, we don't know what you're gonna present. Yeah.
But let's hear from our resident
not yet. Let's keep
Toastmaster expert of the group. Daniel, hit us.
No, I was just going to say for a few pointers in terms of giving a speech or going to deliver a speech, always make sure. So P, you mentioned about they don't remember what you said, it's how you say it. Always there's vocal variety. So use different pitches, use different range in your voice. You know, for certain things, you may want to pause for dramatic impact. Other things, you may want to speed up. So it's always about using different methods of engaging your audience. But one thing I typically do when in the right setting is always have a hook. You always want to have a hook on your audience. So from the get-go,
like a chorus.
No. So after you've been introduced, usually depending on what setting you're in, like I've given talks to universities where I've gone in.
Jokes for days.
I've gone in and I've said, so I've when it was like a bunch of students, you want to get them engaged. So I had £20.
I hated this one.
And I said, who wants the £20? People put their hands up. I said, who wants the £20? And then someone will eventually clock on, they get up, get off their seat, come up to me, get the £20, and it's theirs. So from that,
so you bribe them to
because raise the stakes, big boy.
Because anything in life you want, you have to go get it. So you saying you want it from sitting down, you're not going to get it. You have to get up off your chair and come and get it. So I've done also giveaways. So, asking them questions. So engaging the audience from early on about maybe the topic or subject I'm referring to. So ask them questions. If they get it right, they've got some prizes. I give it to them. So, you get that engagement and then we settle down and then we go in and deliver. So going back to using notes and signposts, I don't like to have whatever I'm going to say fully fleshed out, written down. I rarely have notes because I don't want to be caged to my notes or stuck to standing behind a microphone or a podium. I'd rather have I'd rather be mic'd up so that I can move around the stage with purpose. I can engage with them, have eye contact, because I feel as though you standing in one place, you can either easily lean on the podium where you're delivering the speech from, or fall into the trap of just reading off a piece of paper and not being authentic. So even with that, it's just making sure that you are comfortable yourself. You've practiced at least a few times. You have the main things you want to discuss or talk about, and then you deliver it. There's never been a time where I haven't been nervous. I've always been nervous, but that's
proper
natural.
sweating. Proper sweating.
I wouldn't say proper sweating, but it's also how you yourself manage those nerves. So beforehand, maybe always making sure that there's a glass of water where you're going to be speaking from, so that you can just sip during or throughout if your mouth gets dry very quickly because of the nerves. But there's never been a time.
What do you do to?
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you guys do to prepare?
Yeah, because
the nerves go on.
The part that Daniel mentioned, that nerves is always going to exist. It's always going to exist. Like, you need to have a way to train your mind. So what I do prior to a presentation, I'll go. I think I mentioned this before. I'll go to the toilet and say words of affirmation. Like, this. you're amazing, it's nothing, you've got this. They don't like you just
Ollie, it sounds like you're spitting bars, Ollie.
No, but here's the thing is,
it
go on,
mentally gets you into a space where you're like, this is nothing. Like you need to get to a point where you're not caring too much to the point that you freeze.
Cool. Yes.
That's it.
I would just continue.
Ego goes up.
You need to pump up your ego. As I'm walking on that stage, I'm like, laughing like, oh yeah, I've got this, whatever. Get into a space where you're comfortable and you can easily pass that message. I remember the second time I did a presentation on the stage, I felt like my legs were shaking. Like, like you have feelings that like your legs or body part are shaking. And after I watched the video back, I was like, oh wait, my legs weren't shaking, but because of the nerves, right? You feel like, and then I say the first thing is focus on just getting your first sentence out. Like focus on that first sentence. As soon as you've got that, then you'll realize your confidence will build up. And then all of a sudden, a minute into your presentation, you're like, I've got this. But words of affirmation, take your time and focus on that first sentence.
One of the things, I don't know if you guys have done this. I actually, a couple of days leading up to the presentation, I visualized up. Oh, excuse my language. I visualized.
Excuse your French.
I visualized messing up because once I visualized it. Now listen.
No, I'm laughing just because how hard you went at the swearing.
Oh, sorry. I'm visualizing. I visualize messing up because once I've got that out of my way, I have no reason now to feel nervous. So I think about it and I say to myself, Pabila, imagine you actually really mess up your lines and then you just stand there and look at the crowd. Can you see it? Can you picture it? Right, now you pictured it, get out of the way, and now focus on the fact that you've actually practiced 20 times that you can go ahead and do it. Because I find that for me, I personally feel like by not entertaining the worst case scenario or the nightmare, the day it happens, if it was to happen, it's like, oh my God, what do I do? So that's something. It's just personally, it's like a more of a mental warfare. But to your point, exactly, I do something very similar. I basically kind of talk down at the crowd and say, look, this crowd is nothing. It's light work. I practiced 20 times. They can't touch me. They can't present like me. No one can do it. Trust me. I say it.
Wait till they have the questions when it's at work.
Yeah. So I just basically say that. I'm like, listen, no one, you just can't touch me. I'm on this journey. Boom. Ready to go. But on that point, another tip that has worked well is I find what I've noticed is that people tend to mess up their lines when they're moving around or switching. And one tip that was shared with me, which is really good. If you're looking at someone and you're presenting, and don't look at the next person until you finish that sentence.
Yes.
And then move on to the next person or your next visual point where you want to focus. And it helps.
One message.
Exactly. So that has something which is helped because like we've all been there, right? What did you guys do when what do you do when you're presenting and you can see someone looking at you like this?
No, but
or you see someone kind of like what I need in the crowd is someone doing this. Because then I'm rolling, yeah.
But another tip is you don't need to look at people in the eyes. A tip is just look over people's heads. If you just look over the heads, they still think it's eye contact.
You can't ignore when someone's
you glance. But the thing is, you don't stare, you glance. So you make sure you keep eye contact with different parts of the room. Because there'll always be one person be like,
some and the last thing before I forget, what you mentioned about Q&A. This is something which is such a subtle tip, but when you see the difference between doing it and not doing it, it's so loud. And what it is when the presentation is usually done, if there's a Q&A after, a lot of times those that are asking the question, if someone's asking a question that you already know the answer to, you start answering it before they've even finished what they're asking you the question, because you're on stage and you feel like, okay, I want to answer quick and move on to the next person. And I think it's really important to wait for someone to finish, maybe pause, and then answer the question. And it may sound very simple and straightforward, but you should watch it because people tend to say, actually, but the person hasn't even finished their question yet. So it's quite glaring.
Even to aid that is when someone asks you a question, repeat the question before you answer.
Yes, that's a good tip. That is amazing
Do
tip.
you repeat it word for word, or you do?
No,
what you're trying to say?
so ask me a question. So you just paraphrase and you can. Well, we can do a role play if you want.
So
Daniel, I say Daniel on slide 2. I really I'm interested to know more about where the sources of data is coming from to fuel that algorithm.
So where I spoke about Pythagoras' theorem, that data came from.
But you didn't answer my question.
No, so you're talking about. I'm assuming that slide 2 is Pythagoras' theorem.
Okay.
So I'm saying because
He's role playing as well.
because I'm saying I know what my slides are. So slide 2, you don't remember Pythagoras' theorem, but I'm saying so from Pythagoras' theorem on slide 2, the data came from, and then I answer.
I thought you meant Daniel. I thought you meant when you reframe a question. So say for example, if
like
Sure,
on your when you was in Tokyo, did you find how did I don't even know, bro. I'm trying to look at your other presentation. If you want me to reframe a question, I need a question, bro. Sure. Cool. Listen, it was quite inspiring to hear you talk about your journey with learning how to swim. What would you advise people who find themselves in similar situations?
Pabila, so I understand the question, you're asking about the journey that I went through in terms of learning how to swim and what I could share that to other people about.
Exactly, but Daniel, what he just said, is that what you're talking about? Because that's what
I thought Daniel was
because I'm not trying to ask you to predicate what I'm saying. So me answering it is not then for you to say yes. So I would answer it in the way that I'm leading on to my answer.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of taking Pabila's question as like an assist to your answer.
To begin with, to set up my answer.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Like an alley-oop. Yeah.
But Daniel, how do you prepare before any other pointers?
Yeah, I usually would
make some dessert.
With the gloves.
What do you mean to prepare before going on to speak?
Yeah, before on stage. Yeah.
Typically, when I've been in the room. So if it's a talk at a school, university, whatever, you've always been in the room. So I can't get up and leave because I'm there and to sit down. So usually it's like I remember it might be 3 speakers before me, and I'm thinking, okay, 3, I'm cool. Then the next person, the person who's up before me is up. They finish thinking, oh no, it's me next. Oh damn, it's me next. Legs start shaking. But then I just take deep breaths and be like, you've got this. It's right. It's cool. You prepared. Relax. Be natural. Be normal. Take it slow. Speak slowly, because if you're nervous, you have a tendency to speak very fast.
Yeah.
And speed kills. So it's remember for me to make sure that I pause, or even in my notes, it just says pause. Speak slowly. Pause. I'm not necessarily reading anything, but it's just reminding me to go slowly and to deliver it in a way that I can be understood.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, go on, Daniel.
No, I was going to say, lastly, in terms of speaking, as always, every single talk, speech, or anything you do in front of an audience, or even a call or conversation, is you always have the talk you gave, the talk you prepared, and the talk you wish you gave. Always.
I think the point that Oli made as well, recently the one that I gave, I was actually frustrated because there were some killer lines that I thought I had that I didn't say. But of course, no one else knows that. The only person that knows that is you. And if you were still able to deliver something good, then I think it's still job done. I'm just trying to think just anything new to add. I think one thing that I do, similar to Oli, where I'm in front of the mirror and I'm just talking to myself, like bouncing around, I've got this. And then one thing is I put my arms up like this, because there was a TED talk on it, where if you raise your arms up as if you just won something, then it sends triggers to your brain where you get like a lot of positive emotions. So if you do this for like a prolonged period and you're standing,
Shut up. Shut up.
And you know what it's like? This is like, the Nigerian punishments where you have to do the positive.
The way that's linked to moments of celebration is even people who are blind or deaf, who don't have their senses, when they're having a moment of joy or celebration, their natural feeling is they want to put their arms up in the air.
Isn't that a sign of surrender?
No, I guess it depends on the circumstance. So that's one thing, and then the other thing that I would add is just to practice before. And this leads to the next question that I have, where I'd be interested if you guys have ever had a choking moment, because about I think just over a year ago, I got invited to speak about this One Young World conference internally in Novartis, and at this stage, I probably had spoken beforehand, maybe to a large audience, maybe 2-3 years prior. And that last one that I did was really good. So I went into it thinking, I'm like, this is my thing now. Like, I can do this. I tried to do the usual thing where I remember the first line and the last line. So those are very important that I remember those word for word, just so I have the flow. And this is the first time in my life where it came to us presenting. We get on stage. I say my first line, blank.
Oh my God.
And I was like I stood there in disbelief with lots of like eyeballs looking at me, and I was just thinking in my head, oh my God, this is what it feels like. I've never had this happen to me before. And then so much so where I didn't say anything, and then what felt like it was like 20 seconds was probably about 5 seconds. So then what I did is I repeated my first line again, word for word. And then I looked over to my colleague who I was presenting with, and I was like, "No!" and then it kind of clicked, and then I got into the flow of it, and then it was okay.
Where was this? Where was this?
This was in our company, P. This was about a year and a half ago, probably now, and that was the first time where it happened. No, P wasn't there because it was presenting to like the corporate social group or something, and again, it was very, very small. Is something that I noticed, and other people actually didn't notice as much. But that was the first time that I had been caught with that, and I was reflecting a little bit afterwards, like, why did that happen? And I realized I was way too relaxed going into it. Yes, I maybe didn't prepare as much as I could have, but my preparation just wasn't as effective, and I didn't practice enough in front of other people. So that was a big learning for me. And I remember the first time I did it after that, the nerves I had, because I had never felt that kind of choking moment before. And then you go through it and then you think to yourself, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not that person. And I remember that was a much smaller group where I was presenting to, and it was a completely external audience. And I was so nervous that my legs were shaking. I was like, wow, I've never felt this nervous before. And I think it was because of that small choking incident. And then that one went perfectly well. And then I got back into my groove again.
Defensive mechanism where it has a bad experience, right? It's there was a book that I was reading, what's it called? Something Chimp. But what it just basically says is whenever you've had a bad experience, your mind automatically trains whenever you feel like that scenario could happen again, you get a defensive mechanism. Mine hasn't been from public speaking in terms of on a stage, but it has been in a presentation over the phone.
Yeah.
So it was like it was my first presentation. I wrote down everything I was going to say word for word. I basically didn't pause and just read everything. Didn't breathe once. And I was like, we good? And that was it. I didn't have any questions. It was like my first presentation, didn't have any questions. And it was like with the Asia team. So I'm sure no one understood a word I was saying because I was speaking so fast. But yeah, that was my one. I've seen people choke. And I'll say with watching people choke, right? The key thing is, for that was a beat. But we're gonna start spitting. The key thing when I've seen people choke, right, is how do you get back on track? Are you someone that just walks away and just like, look, guys, I'm done. I can't do it. Or do you try and just go onto a completely different topic? No one knows what you're really talking about, right? And then also, if you're on stage with a group of people, by practicing with those group of people, they can always save you where they realize, oh, she was forgotten what he's saying. Oh, I remembered he went this way. Let me just give him a little reminder. Hey, Shiwa, what about the so-and-so thing? And then you can continue from there. What about you, Daniel? Have you had a moment where you've choked?
Yeah, I have actually. I was presenting at work to about 500 people, and then I got on because I was on stage and I went blank, and I went, forget this. I walked off.
No way. Exactly.
That's why I was busting up. That's why she was starting like, "No, I'm joking. I'm playing."
I knew it, man. I knew it.
I was like, man, just walk off.
I don't recall a time that well, if I have, people wouldn't have known because I've recovered it. So always have something to quickly fall back on. Or I try and visualize my speeches so I know my talks, I know what I'm going to cover. So I remember on my page, and this is how I used to revise. I used to do mind maps so I could remember where was what, where things were. Even P has a recording of me reciting an essay word for word. Do you remember?
No.
Financial theory. You don't remember? You don't remember?
I'm gonna think now. You're making me think now. You're making me think.
You don't remember? There's a. It was the. Is it
this guy's got jokes.
It's E3064 or something. Corporate policy and financial theory.
P is not the person to back you. You don't back.
Hey, you don't back it. You recorded it. That's right. It's cool. You don't remember. But so I try and visualize my what I write things down so I can visualize it. So that's where I record it from my memory.
Cool. P, have you choked?
I haven't choked. I'm actually thinking about. And the reason why I probably haven't choked because I practiced like 25 times. So I practiced so many times, that when it actually comes to presenting, I'm tired of the speech or the presentation. Same thing with my wedding speech. I practiced it so many times that people, and it's funny because they don't know I've practiced it 20 times.
That was a great speech, by the way.
What I do, thank you. What I do is I practice it forward, backwards and forward, middle to the back, middle to the end. I start from the end. So I play around with, so that means like, there's no way I can choke. Well, at least that's what I think to myself, unless someone pulls a funny face and I'm just thrown. So I was actually going to say one of my tips is, I think, and I saw this on like online, it's called a 20 for 20 rule. So practice it 20 times and you can guarantee that you'll be actually good. And yeah, because I like a lot of times if I don't, there's a lot of ums in my speech. So by practicing it 20 times, I'm stripping out the ums, I'm getting the pauses in, and actually it comes to the point where the last 5 are just, I'm like, I can't bother to even present. So on the day, I just get it done, and I guess it leaves an impact.
From you guys, for some of the speeches, public speeches you've seen, what are some of the traits it's had that's made you say, okay, that was a really good public speak? What do you think of them?
Easy for me. For me, it's one that's been engaging, interesting. Not there's a very little use of filler words like ums and ahs. So rather than doing that, you just pause. Yeah. Rather than going because for me I really pick on those things and it really annoys me. So that distracts me completely. It's really of one that's engaging, interesting, and it's a story. So one that takes you on a journey rather than just this is what I have to say. I want to get it out and that's it. One that takes you on a journey to delivering whatever they want to say with impact for me, because that's the way I like to learn.
Cool. Sure.
I think actually, I don't think I've got anything to add from Dan. Just someone where when they present, you can see that they've really thought it out and there's a good flow to it. It's
the one thing I'll add is passion is something.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Gets me, like, I need to see a level of energy, which that's what I was going to ask you, P, right? When you practice so many times, do you find out when you're presenting on the stage, you lack that energy?
No, I bring it all to the table. I just need to nail what I'm going to say. So once I've nailed that, then I can add the energy on top.
Yeah.
But to your point, for me, is I want to see someone presenting as if it's their last chance, it's their last presentation. Because that's what it impacts you and touches you in a way that you think, wow. And so I think it's the passion, and we've all seen those. We've seen those talks online. We've seen it on stage where you're just thinking, this guy hasn't got anything left. Or not, it's not anything left, but you know what I mean. It's like he's really
prolonging it.
Yeah, he's really he or she is really
leaving it all on the table.
Leave it deep into the message.
That would have been the best way to say that. But also, I think you need to always have some sort of joke. For me personally, I always
bring some humor. Definitely,
there needs to be some level.
It relaxes your own nerves.
I always say, all the good pastors I know, I've got some level of humor in there as well. Like like ex-comedians. It feels like I need people because
Pete, I think you
I
can
need
do it.
life changing. I need life. Yeah, I probably could, mate. But I need some.
But the thing is, your thing is, you're thinking
I
about
need
it
life
too much.
changing.
You're thinking,
I need life changing.
you're
Go
thinking
on.
too much humor. It's something very subtle, like even,
Yeah.
oh, they call me up to speak to you, but I don't even know why. I'm really rubbish.
Yeah.
No,
But
I
then
know,
just don't be rubbish. Just don't be rubbish. That's all.
Yeah, don't say
But
that and be rubbish.
It's like it's a joke. It's like a joke on yourself. It's not really for them. It's for you to relax your nerves.
It's for you to. But
The
in
thing is,
P's
I
mind,
probably-
he's thinking that P's thinking they're calling him up to be a comedian. He'll be cracking up big jokes. Like,
When's this guy gonna start?
yeah,
I probably have made jokes, yeah, but they're not necessarily what I would call jokes, innit?
they're corporate jokes.
For the audience, but
They're corporate jokes. They're like safe jokes.
yeah, that's the thing, safe jokes, innit?
But no.
Yeah.
In terms of, so what about, because we mentioned before, right? One advice I'll give to the listeners, right, is a lot of people are afraid to do public speaking. Like Daniel said, is the number one fear for a lot of people. The only way you're going to get over it is by practice. Practice. The more opportunities you get to do public speaking, the better you're going to be at it. Practice with your friends, practice with your family
Family as well. Yeah.
Family, just practice. I've got my older brother. Whenever I used to have a presentation, he would just grill me about he'll be like, why are you saying okay, I don't want to hit, like, he will grill me onto a point that I'll get to a level of perfection, which perfection doesn't really exist, but to a level where it's competent, and then you'll be able to take it. But practice. It's okay to be nervous. Know that anyone and everyone that gets on the stage, from Pabilo to the president, they all get nervous. So it's a natural emotion and feeling to have. It's just continuously practice, be prepared, and take your time.
I'm trying to figure out if that was a shot or not, but
No shots.
Yeah.
What's
we
so
do-
we're doing like a
we've done
quick
it
final tip to close, I guess.
Yeah, just practice 20 times, man.
Daniel? I'm still thinking.
He was like,
Cool, I like that.
For me, I would say practice in a safe arena environment where you can get constructive feedback for you to improve. That for me has helped me. Toastmasters has been an arena where I've been able to learn, make mistakes, learn from those who are better than me, and also watch the journey of those who are improving as well, because it does encourage you to speak more. And also the art of developing thoughts in a short space of time to deliver an impromptu speech is one thing that's really good.
Tell me about it, man.
I think probably the one last one I'd try and think something new is probably, if you can, try and know who your audience is before, because then if you can tailor the talk to something that you think they are interested in, this is even personally or professionally, then I think it can be a lot more engaging as well, because it doesn't make sense sitting in front of school kids and talking to them about topics like pension and stuff, because it's just never going to fly. So try and find topics that the audience would be interested in. I think
so for me, what that screams out is, which is very true, is from an audience perspective, what's in it for me? Always think when you're going to deliver a speech for the audience, what's in it for me? Why should I listen to you? Why should I give you my undivided attention?
Just quickly, actually, there was actually a really good presentation that we were part of at work.
Yeah.
What is? Do you even know who I'm talking about?
I thought you were going to talk about our SEO one.
SEO? No. What basically to that point about addressing what the audience is looking for. This was more of a workshop type. But what the person did, it was before. So the interns were going to learn about that particular person's role. And they thought, and usually what will happen is a person will just stand there and give you their background and their career, and then talk to you a little bit about, what they've done and etc. And it's very much what they thought you wanted to hear. But what he did actually in the very beginning, he says, what do you guys want to know? And he wrote on the whiteboard everything that came out of the suggestions. And he decided to tailor his presentation to what was on the board and the board only. So he didn't tell you about some of the things that he liked personally that he may think you want to hear. Everything was strictly based on the questions from the audience. And I thought that was a really, really great way of having a very high performing workshop session with people, and not assuming that they want to know about what you did, maybe, I don't know, something else, but taking their suggestions and using that.
Dope.
Hey, one last recommendation. This is actually a book one. There is a book called TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking by Chris Anderson. And I actually read it about a year ago, but then reread it a month ago. And the tips that this guy gives, he's basically the person who's running the TED organization. He breaks down all the preparation that they do, the way to draw an audience in, how to start in an engaging manner, how to close, etc., and what also to avoid. I think most of our listeners are familiar with TED Talks anyway, so you should subscribe to their podcast. They have a video podcast, YouTube, everything, but the book is very, very, very helpful. So that's the last recommendation from my side.
I thought that was the book review from Pabilo.
Cool. Another episode in the bag.
So thank you all for listening to episode number 44 of Take Flight Podcast. We hope you found it enjoyable and hope you found some of these tips useful and insightful. If you have any feedback for us, please contact us on Instagram at Take Flight Podcast or contact us on contact us via email at Gmail on takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. Peace out. Stay blessed. God bless.
Woo!
Take off, take flight.